All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the LALAL.AI YouTube channel. Welcome back to our producer and musician interview series. We're still kind of figuring out the perfect name to call these, but it's been a lot of fun having a lot of the guests that we've had on so far. And today we have another really amazing guest that I'm excited to ask some questions, get to know his story, and also for you guys to get to know him as well. Today I'm joined with Rafael Valentino from iHeartRadio. He's a DJ, a professional radio DJ. He was just telling me about some of the stuff in his schedule when it comes to being on these radio stations with iHeartRadio. I know he does a lot of stuff with remixes. I know he's in the podcast space as well. Just kind of a jack of all trades. But I think one thing that I'm really excited to kind of pick your brain on and get to know in this interview is all of the stuff that you do, I guess, online and offline, because, for producers like myself, being involved in like the type beat, business, and the music producer, selling beats game, a lot of the stuff I do is just digital. So I'm really excited to kind of learn more and hear your stories about, being on radio, going to events, going to shows. But
Sure.
yeah, so man, thank you so much for joining me here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
So I know that I always feel like I can never fully give the best explanation of what, our guests kind of do, but I would love if you could give a couple maybe sentences of what is your title? I feel like that is like, for
It's
many musicians, for many people in this industry, just maybe you don't have one title, but if you could
Hmm,
just kind of summarize for everyone here, what
got
it
it.
is that you do, your best shot, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I am involved in a lot, but for iHeartRadio, like you said, I produce mix shows and remixes and everything like that. I have my own production company as well. And then actually the reason that this interview was kind of hit very close to home is because in college my major was computer engineering and math, but I specialized in my concentration was architecture, organization, and AI. So
Wow.
we didn't have the AI we have today. It was all A-star algorithm stuff, so a lot of guess and check. But 2017 rolled around and it got exciting. So I think AI is touching every vertical. It's just adding a little bit to every single part of the puzzle in most industries. Without getting ahead of myself, because I know you're probably going to want to talk about AI music production and
Oh,
everything
good.
in the
Yeah.
future, but
That's
yeah,
exciting.
but yeah, it's really great to see something that I feel that I kind of knew pretty well, when I was in school, kind of come around and just become part of everything. So it's an exciting time. It's a scary time for some people, but
Yeah.
it's um it's really cool for like I said, for most industries, it's just adding a layer that um most software didn't have the ability to do any of this stuff. So it's a good time to be alive.
No, that's interesting. I feel you. When did you go to school, like studying, computers and AI and all that
Sure.
stuff? I feel
Yeah.
like for me, like I mean, yeah, I've heard, AI for a couple of years now, but especially in the past year, it's just like blown up like crazy. Um, yeah, when did you like start kind of diving into that space?
Probably 2003 and 2002
Wow.
and 3. Yeah. Went to school 2001, 2, 3 for 5 years, including summers. But that was it was an exciting time too. It was all tech. I went to NJIT. So it
Okay.
was a technological school. So you're surrounded by all, you know, all various types of tech. We were doing more autonomy, like autonomous cars. We were part of the DARPA's Grand Challenge, which is basically trying to make a car autonomous that wasn't, our car wasn't drive-by-wire or anything. So we were looking to make like a Tesla before Tesla was a company
Wow.
with a ton of sensors and stuff. That was our senior project. And then believe it or not, the lead developer for that project in college and myself actually started a company. And then we started producing a lot of music together. He was really into dubstep. I was more into the radio
Okay.
scene with the house and dance music and the remixes for the radio shows. So that's how we kind of grew into the role of what we're doing now. The productions, the remixes, and a little bit of everything.
That's I feel like, man, that's crazy. I think like and I don't mean this in any bad way, but like 2003, I was 7 years old. So I'm like trying to wrap my head around like, computers and especially the I guess the first steps into the AI realm in 2003. That's insane to me. Just to even think about. But I like what you said, and I definitely relate, kind of being involved in, computers and the geeky side of things, and then leading into music production, right? Like I think
Sure.
especially what you said about like dubstep and house, like I feel like a lot of producers who like, you know like dubstep and it just like I feel like, those electronic genres especially, there's so much digital tweaking involved, right? Like would you say so as well? Like computers kind of lead
Yeah.
into music production like that?
There are certain genres that you couldn't have done back in the day, or it just would have been really difficult. You know what I'm saying? And then they had, like reggae dub turn into dubstep, and then how
Yeah.
the history came together. And if you see it, I mean, it's interesting. It really is. Um, but yeah, in terms of to make a song is just tough.
Yeah.
If you're not classically trained, it's another level of like difficulty. And then to make a song that's recognizable, like if you hear something and you're like, that's dubstep, it's more than just recognizing like the programming and the sounds and the sound design and all that. So it's yeah, like anything else though, if you're trying to learn 3D modeling or music production, it just takes a ton of time,
Oh yeah.
you just got to play with it. It's like instead of doing whatever you do as a hobby, you got to just kind of pick it up and play with it a little bit. And then eventually you'll learn, I mean, with the internet today, also when I back in the day, there was just no YouTube,
I think that was
so
the
like
same when I started. Like I
it's
started
crazy.
just before YouTube. Man, I remember
Yeah,
going on how there used to be all these forums that I used to like uh look up like good FL Studio drum kits. I think like War Beats was one. War Beats. I think like
I don't remember that one.
free like I was like freedrumkits.net was another big one. And just like
Yeah,
basically all these forums and like it's so crazy how just how different it is now. It's like you got Splice, you got Cymatic, like all these people who specialize
kits
in
and yep,
arcade and stuff, right? I remember some of these forums like it's so funny. Like you had to save up enough credits to download like a Lil Jon drum kit or something like that. And every day when you logged on, you got like 5 credits, and you needed like 50 credits to like download like a Gucci Mane drum sample or something like that.
it was a different time, man. It was a different time completely. It was
People starting right now don't know how easy it is compared to way back then.
No, it's crazy because I got most of my knowledge from people, and we used to hang out at Guitar Center. And before
Okay, yeah.
production, I actually started as a DJ. So when I got into music, period, I got into turntablism. Like I don't know how. I mean, I know how, but it was just a weird path because my family owned a bakery, so I
Okay.
spent most of my time at the family business, and then, uh, I was just looking, and I was so intrigued by hearing mixes that sounded like one cohesive song, and I'm like, how are they doing that? And then I saw people doing it live, and then I'm like, oh man, they're doing it this. And then I found out about like digital audio workstations and Pro Tools, and I saw projects from like New York Underground and all these projects that I like bought these CDs when I was younger.
Yeah.
So to see these project files, it's totally different. But I started on the DJ standpoint, and then I started making edits to help me in my sets, and then I started making the remixes, and then I got the radio attention from that because that's the big one, right? They say
Yeah,
if you want to make it to tour, if you want to make it on stage at Ultra or something, you have to make music, like
definitely.
original productions. But if you want to do radio, if you want to do, it depends what your goal is. I guess I always wanted to DJ just to DJ. I just saw other DJs and I was like, that's what I want to do. And then to make the edits and all of that, it just kind of like evolved. And then KTU was in my crosshairs because that's all my brother listened to back in the day, and all of that from 92 KTU and all those stations. But um, I used to just DJ at all these clubs in New Jersey, and then they did a live broadcast, and then immediately it was just one of those things where back and forth we were just going on with another DJ that was the resident there, and then um, Hollywood, I think, was there doing a live broadcast, and then it was just like, "Do you want to do a live show on the radio?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, that'd be great." And then it was like the next week, I just sent them, a mix. I think I learned Ableton
Wow.
like that
That
week.
day, that
Yeah,
day,
because
that's
I bought an
crazy.
Axiom. I went out. I bought an Axiom 49. I still remember this, and it like
Wow.
came with Live Light 6. I think that's how old this was. And then like the time stretching was different in Ableton back then too. And then at the beginning, I just did the thing, that amateur thing when you download like every digital audio workstation. I was like
Yeah.
opening Logic and Pro Tools and Nuendo and Cubase and Fruity Loops and just trying to just every plugin. And then I'm like, I just have too much stuff. I don't know what to do anymore. But I guess like doing that, that's part of the process. You know, you work with other people, you see how to collaborate, what tools exist, and um, just how to make it possible. And then I guess you kind of just grow on your own.
Yeah, we had an interview in this series with Mr. Mig, and I think he had a very similar story to you, where he was telling me that he was making remixes, and I think same kind of thing. All of a sudden, he got this opportunity, and I think he got a CD of I don't know like Reason or just some like super old school, and had to learn like that day or like that week. Basically, it's crazy just I guess how the opportunities yeah, just kind of come up like quick like that. But I like what you said about like, learning a lot of stuff from people. And I think that's kind of like an underrated tip, I would say. I
Yep.
remember when I was learning how to make beats, like YouTube was around, but like the whole like type beats thing, and YouTube was still like very, very early. But when I was kind of getting more serious into it, like I remember I would spend a lot of time watching videos of some of my favorite producers in the studio, like Avicii, Skrillex, Tiesto, all these big guys. And sometimes they would show FL Studio, which is what I use. And they would show
Yeah.
like the little, and I would try and like zoom in and be like, okay, what is he doing exactly, right? And then I also remember going on again these forums and downloading remix packs. I don't know if that's still what they're called, but they were basically like the song stems. And I remember getting like
Oh yeah.
Ariana Grande, Maroon 5, like Justin Bieber, like these big like pop records, like the song stems. And I remember like
Yeah.
loading it up into FL Studio and then just kind of like muting and soloing out like the drums or the effects. And it was like this kind of like reverse engineering, like,
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing.
way. Yeah, that helped me a
Yeah.
lot to just basically see like, okay, what are they doing and how can I do that to myself? I'm guessing, I think as you said, having all those files and stuff like it's so like exciting to see. It's kind of nerdy, but like what would you also say like yeah, like what would you say about like learning from people? Because that's something that I've kind of like I feel like I've lacked, like being
Yeah.
around people in the space and kind of learning from them.
Well, people take it for granted now
Mhm.
because it's so accessible. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like you were saying you have to wait and gather 50 credits just to download a pack.
It was
I
like
can
2 weeks
probably,
to get
yeah,
like
dude,
the worst
it's,
drum samples ever.
and then you get them and you're just like, ah, damn it. I think I paid $200 or $100 for a Dead Mouse and a CD. It was just samples. I forgot who it was. It was Dead Mouse and someone else. I remember I'll tell you this though. I haven't told anyone this in a long time, but I remember the thing that made me want to produce music as like a house music producer. And there was a magazine called Future Music, like back in the day. I don't know if you remember it. And then Future Music used to come with a DVD.
Yeah,
And then you loaded the DVD in your computer. And I remember I bought this and it showed how Thomas Gold made Silence Delirium, his remix of that.
yeah.
And first off, that song was like one of my favorite remixes like ever. I told Thomas Gold like every March, I'm like, hey, and he's like, I remember. I'm like, all right, cool. But I was like enamored at how much time and how just these people just know. Like Funk Agenda back in the day too was like crazy with sound design. He would make videos where he would, I mean, make videos not on YouTube, but again on Future Music, he would make a video where he would create a sound on a hardware synth, like a Nord,
Yeah.
like a Triton or something, and then he would recreate it in software,
Okay.
like in front of you, but incredibly quickly with like three oscillators. Like he knew exactly, he was such a master of his craft. It just make like watching anyone doing anything
Yeah.
like that, like in control is just wild. And you
It's
see
so
that and you just
satisfying.
want it really is. Like I'm a big making guy. Like I'm just a big I have like laser cutting, 3D modeling, 3D printing, like custom
Yeah.
fabrication, CNCs, like making music, making anything. I just like doing something from scratch. So the appeal of making songs, making remixes even. I used to listen to, Sweet Disposition. You listen to a song like, you know, like that, and then you listen to the remix and you're like, that's incredible. To
Yeah.
make something completely different that had nothing, just to use an audio, like a vocal stem, and then just create something completely different is wild. It really is. So that caught
It's
my attention. That's how I got into the remixing and the production was a lot future music and Thomas Gold and other producers like him just trying to learn like how to start a track, like where to begin. You open up
yeah.
the DAW and you're like, do I drag samples in?
It's
Like, do I
crazy.
use a
It's like
sequencer? Do I use my APC? Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
that's it's one thing that I think is like so exciting, but then I also feel like it's kind of like overwhelming too. It's like
Oh yeah.
I'm my my father-in-law, he is kind of getting into music, just making it for fun. And I've been teaching him like a bit about FL Studio because I'm like, hey, this is what I've used. You can record your guitar tracks right into it, kind of splice things
Yeah.
around and stuff, right? And then it's funny. It's like sometimes he asks me, he's like, how do I sidechain something or how do I pan something? And I just like I have to think. I'm like, okay, there's like 15 different ways that I know how to
Yeah.
pan something, and I'm like, what is the best way, to tell him? And then he plays around with it, and he comes back and he's like, hey, I found this cool way that you can make an automation clip or pan something or whatever. And I'm like, I've been using this program for like 15 years, and I didn't even know that. But it's like it's so exciting because it's like, yeah, I feel like these digital audio workstations, and they give you like a sort of blank canvas, and then you can do
Yeah.
whatever you want. That's so exciting. Like that's one of the things that I love most about making music. It's like just loading
Yeah.
up the DAW, and then yeah, you can either make the best song ever. Sometimes you're gonna make the absolute worst songs ever.
Oh yeah. And then if
But
you
it's
work on
just
if you
like,
work on the same song long enough, it becomes the worst song ever. Like
yeah,
if you just
I hate when that
when you
happens.
start
Yeah,
editing a song and it just
it
goes in
just
two
feels,
directions
yeah,
and then
man.
you
I
if you
spent
I'm the kind of guy I'll save like 11 versions
that's what
and
I
then I'll
need
go
to
back.
do.
Yeah, oh wait, and I go
I
back
need
three
to do that,
versions.
man. I spent like
Yeah,
2 hours like mixing a beat the other day, and I'm listening back to it. I'm just like, this sounded better 2 hours ago.
it's
I
the
was like,
worst
what
because
did
then
I
you don't
do
even
at
know
this?
what you did. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're way past the point of like, I think I can fix this. You're like, nah, we have to start from scratch now.
So
But
for
yeah,
your own tracks that you produce, like, do you think that, everything that you've done with the radio scene and the, in-person events and the networking and all that stuff, has that all contributed to the way that you, I guess, look at producing music? Like, being a radio DJ, for example, are there any kind of tips that you've learned that, like, I don't know, like, maybe a song should be this long, or it should start with this, or, remixes should start with this? Like, is there anything you've kind of picked up based on like real world feedback and people's reactions?
yeah. I mean, I think people make music for different reasons. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So if I was scoring like a reality show, I would tackle that different than, if I was making like an ethereal, like cinematic orchestral, you know what I mean? So I think the
Yeah.
reference track is one of the things that I didn't do that until probably well into my few years of trying to just learn the DAW because I think you first off, you should be comfortable enough with the software that it's not slowing you down.
Mhm.
Because if you're Googling every step, that's just something, you know what I'm saying? It's just something
Yeah.
where you can't fix that. So once you become not a master, but once you become like very fluent in whatever you want to use, then I think just trying to figure out what your end game is going to be. Like if you want to create a radio song, listen to what's on the radio. If you're not good at recreating that, by the time you do something that you're happy with, I think like the time is going to pass and then music kind of pivots. Like we
Mhm.
go through the chain smoker 80 BPM phase and now we're getting into the trance phase where everything's like 140, 150, no, not 150, but it's getting a lot faster.
Yeah.
It's a lot more electronic, it's a lot more, you know, um, Amsterdamy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just you're seeing the music from like ADE come over here finally, and a lot more producers are just it's cool because the producers are playing like they're home, you know?
Mhm.
So instead of like Carl, I remember I saw Carl Cox. Uh, it was one of the New York clubs. It was like Cielo when it was open, but he played completely different. You know what I'm saying? So he played
Yeah.
like he was for the room, which is awesome that a DJ can do that.
Yeah.
But it's also cool to hear like DJs in their own element here kind of like doing what they do best, it's always a big difference. You can see people like Marcus Schultz, they're, when I was
Yeah.
talking to him, he was like, we do like 7, 8 hour sets. I'm like, how do you not go to the bathroom in 8 hours? You have like Junior Sanchez back in the day, like 24-hour sets. I'm
It's
like, you guys are
crazy. I would
crazy.
totally just zone out and feel like, what am I doing again? Like,
Yeah. It's like, did I play this 11 times? Let's do it again.
it's
But
just like the same loop, just the 4 bar loop, just over and
yeah.
over. You're just like,
Yeah,
I fell
that's
asleep. Sorry.
that's funny. Yeah, I was DJing at Surf Club. I had a residency at Surf Club, and
Yeah.
that was the most fun I've had, I think, because residencies are weird for DJs because residencies kind of put you in this rut where you start getting crates or record box playlists or thumb drives
Okay.
with the set. Like when you do a place on Thursdays, every Thursday, you learn the people there,
Yeah.
which is cool and it's not cool because most DJs can do that. So you
You get
start you
comfortable,
like
right?
yeah, and you start
Yeah.
playing down to everyone's level.
Yeah.
But that's why like the other for DJs, not for producers, but for DJs, that was always one thing that I was always the most, the most comfortable you are, it's usually not the best. You get complacent, you start not being creative.
Yeah.
It's comfortable and it's nice because it is, but it's not fun, you know? I think well, Louis CK, I think he said that he went out on stage and he would do his best jokes first.
Mm.
So when I heard that early on, I was like, oh man, that's actually pretty cool. So I would go out and I would not burn songs, but I would not save really good songs no matter what part of the night it was for. If it was like a big room or if it was, growing or if I was still like low tempo, down tempo, whatever I was, I would try to play like bigger songs to put myself in a corner to see like how I would get
Yeah.
out or how I would move. And it was cool. It's like when like we were talking about producing. You sit down, you just start throwing a ton of samples together, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it's awful. You know?
Yeah. That's the
Yeah,
fun of it. And, yeah, I feel like with me, like that's kind of like the point where like I'm at. It's like, I with all the beats that I post online, and it's kind of this like challenge where I'm trying to find like the sweet spot because I love, making every single genre out there, right? And it's like I want to do this genre and this, and then it's like it's tough because it's like when you have something that your audience wants, it's hard to kind of pivot away from that too much.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like I just like I love making, I'll make an EDM track and then I'll make like a 90s hip hop style like boom bap something right after. And then it's like, then I'll make a trap beat. It's like it's so fun to create music. I think like the
yeah,
problem is just like how to package it online and yeah, I don't know. I haven't found the answers to that one yet, but it's just like it's something that I'm always just trying to think about. And I think like I guess one thing that you said is just like having to know the room, I guess. Like
yeah,
knowing, what people want, how do they want it. I think that's just yeah, that's super valuable. And I think that there's
sure.
I guess a lot of benefit, I guess, just kind of knowing yeah, just being able to
The
read the room,
destination.
right?
It's like anything else, right? If there's a big problem and you want to break it down into small problems so you can like tackle them, where it comes to music, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just feel today there's a million ways to do it.
Mhm.
There's the one thing that we have today that we didn't have 20 years ago is you can pick up music production with a laptop.
You
Like
get
that's the same
on a
thing that,
phone on an iPad,
you know
right?
what I'm saying? It's just, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not even talking Suno or UDI. I'm just talking like tools.
Yeah.
You take any track. I mean, I can take an AI created song from scratch from Suno and then reverse engineer it in
Yeah.
LALAL. And then I just take that individual stems. I can convert the melody or harmony to MIDI in
Yeah.
Ableton, and then I could just feel comfortable. Then you can basically take about an hour and create a infinite amount of sample packs and put all these sounds together that never existed before. Because I mean, people think that computers are just piecing things together, but if people really, most people that aren't utilizing like all these AI tools, if they figure out how it's doing something and you watch someone produce, and I know everyone has their own thing, but at the end of the day, your time's time. And when
Yeah.
there's a thousand ways to do something. And when you see the tools that exist, a lot of times people aren't utilizing them. So my interviews like 3 years ago were all about AI, and everyone's like, "Yeah, I don't think it's gonna take off." And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Like it's, there's guys that have, tens of thousands of tracks on
Yeah.
Spotify. Like,
It's just like AI
under
stuff, right?
600 pseudonyms. Like, what are you,
Yeah,
how is that happening?
it's
But
crazy, man.
these weren't even problems you had to think of. Like back in the day, like I think I heard a stat that said more music was made on an average day in 2025 than all of 1987.
I
Like
believe it, man.
it's yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you're like totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like totally makes sense. But then if you really think about it, you're like, oh man, like people that have nothing to do with music are making songs, and people that have nothing to do with software development or just creating solutions for companies, like, and it's just it's the time that I think people are running out of excuses. Like if you're like, I don't know how to do that, you're like, well,
Like
spend
you
13 minutes on the internet. I don't know what to tell you.
just
Like
ask
learn how to do it.
ChatGPT to like
Don't even
do
talk
some
to a
crazy
person.
thing.
Yeah. Like we
That's
didn't
crazy.
have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the expense of sounding like I'm, in my 80s, like these tools are wild, and if you just utilize a handful of them, like even mastering,
Oh
like
yeah.
stem mastering, like I used to send that to Amsterdam to the Netherlands to get $500, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now you throw now you throw it in one of 9 auto mastering tools, and it's just wild. I used to use what was that like T-Rex? Well, I forgot what it
Oh
was.
yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that where you
I
loaded the
still
reference track and then I'm just playing with it like oh
yeah.
man, it sounds worse again. And I'm like, I don't know what I did. But yeah, it's just I never wanted a master because I always wanted to do what I was good at and then leave the things that other people were good at to do that.
Yeah.
Not because I
I'm
didn't
the
want to learn
same.
it.
I want to
Yeah.
create more stuff, right? It's like
Yeah.
having something that's yeah, just putting the last minute touches on something. I'm like, oh, I just want to make more.
Yeah. And everyone that tours, like a lot of the touring DJs, that's what they say their biggest problem with other when you see someone drop off the face of the earth. It's like if you can't produce in an airplane and you can't produce on a train and you can't produce in a hotel room, you're then you can't
Yeah.
tour because by the time you get back, music's changed. Like
Yeah.
if the Chainsmokers just made one album and then they just stopped and then they came back, everyone is going to be like, we don't want 80 BPMs. Like
Yeah.
stop. You know what I'm
They
saying?
got
So
involved.
yeah, and that's what I mean. I guess that was the good, having labels that, looked out for, the future of like the sound of the artist and, not just like A&R social analytics and things like that. I mean, because music's changing undoubtedly and how people are finding independent artists and if there's even incentives to do stuff like this, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we're also getting to a point where once you monetize less and less on it, the people that are doing it because they really like it, you know? So I think like it kind of thins the herd when
Yeah.
you start like demonetizing all this stuff because you're just like, oh, yeah, you can sell 100,000 songs and make 70 grand on iTunes, but since no one does that anymore, you can make your $11 instead on streaming services, And I'm like, I don't think that's the same thing,
It's so
So
different, man. But I think like, whenever I think about like AI and music and especially like the current state of, music production in 2025, like I go back and forth so many times on like, is this good? Is this bad? It's like, I guess there's like pros and cons. I like one thing you said about how just like it gives like so many opportunities and how there's no excuses.
yeah,
Like, it's like I know exactly what you mean. Like, 5 years ago, trying to find a good guitar VST, if I just wanted a little like, muted guitar loop in one of my beats, now I can just go on, Splice and look that up. And it's like I've even, used Suno before as just like as a starting point, as a reference point. I'm like, hey, make me some jazzy lo-fi chords. And then, it gives me a full track and I take the chords, audio to MIDI, use the tool and then yeah, just kind of use it as a starting point. It's like I don't know, like I like AI and stuff for that. Like it's definitely helpful, and it's like yeah, I even think like years ago, like um, I remember online they used to have what they used to call construction kits that you could buy that
what
were
was it?
basically construction kits,
Okay, okay,
and it was basically like people would put together like an 8 bar like song and then like sell it. And you basically have all the stems, the drums, the bass, the chords. And it was basically like the same thing as like, going on Spice and looking up like individual tracks, right? So I feel
got
like
it.
in a lot of ways it's like nothing like really new, I guess. Because like that stuff has kind of been around
Because it
like
depends
for
how you use it, right? So
yeah,
certain people are making careers out of it. Like certain people are just faking it till they make it,
yeah,
building, AI characters and just marketing them on Instagram, posting 3 times a day, just automated, just with
yeah,
generation based stuff. So a computer's just running an API every,
yeah,
5, 6 hours,
just
and then
goes
all
through
of
it.
a sudden you just get these characters. And then these characters can hold products and do this and do that. So now some people are just literally using AI to create full songs, master them, throw them on, CD Baby, DistroKid, whatever it is, and then that's it. You have an artist profile, and you might have more songs in an afternoon than most artists had in like two
Yeah,
decades. Because back in the day, everyone thought, oh, this is like Ableton and Logic are ruining music because
yeah,
back in the day, you needed bands. You needed like a drummer. And now one person can be a drummer, bass guitar, lead guitar. And
everything.
I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, I totally get that. And now everyone's like, I could just say what I want and I get it. And I'm like, that's worse. Undoubtedly,
yeah,
like it's worse. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
definitely. Yeah.
But to somebody that needs songs just for songs, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what this destroyed is like the royalty-free industry.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
wow. I not to beat a dead horse, but you always hear this from everybody in the tech space. But first off, AI is as bad as it's gonna get. And it is already at a scary, alarming level.
yeah,
And I just think that yeah, the tools we have, people either use them, it's like the sync button, right? If the sync button allows you to use 4 decks instead of two, that's cool. It's not a crutch.
yeah.
It puts you on a pedestal, it separates you from other people. Like if I can make I think I made a couple of videos. I made a couple of AI tracks, and then I did a bunch of processing, and I used LALAL actually to separate the vocal out. And I took the vocal and I just put it on the turntables, and I was just scratching with it in Rekordbox.
Okay.
And that's just a cool performance because if you're going to talk about DJs DJing other people's tracks, and the amount of merit is less than like production because it's not really yours and all that type of stuff, right? Like turntablism is different. That's more like using turntables as an instrument,
Yeah,
but just DJing, if you're gonna, do anything AI based, make it yours. You know what I mean? Like if you're gonna do it, do something cool. Don't try to
yeah,
do something for 1,000 people. That's another thing that people do. Me, myself included, and a ton of amateur producers that I meet that ask me questions there's always a couple of common denominators. People download every plugin right out of the gate.
yeah.
And that's like one thing.
That's I'm
And
trying to like downsize now that I have everything, and I'm
100%,
like, I
man.
don't need. I used to save like 4 plugins. Like, why do I have like all this stuff? Like,
Oh,
I
dude,
feel like
it
yeah,
was
I know what you
bad.
mean. You want everything, and then after a while, you're like, okay, I don't need all this.
It's like you wanting to get into photography and then you buy like a
Yeah,
crazy Hasselblad, even though you don't know
yeah,
why you
exactly.
need those
Yeah,
features. You're just like start with the Canon T3i and then like learn why you need to go forward in
yeah,
life and get these tools. But that's one of the worst things. And then again, we were talking about radio and knowing what your market is to sell this music to. If you're doing it to do your own sound, I think it's always better. People don't realize how many people are out there.
mhm,
And making music's more of a game of just making something and then getting it to as many people as possible. Today, it's easier, but there's a ton of noise. So I
yeah,
think like today's main battle is like break through the noise, and I think you'll have a better chance. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And I don't
Is
think a
there
ton of
like,
people.
I was
Go
gonna
ahead.
say, is there anything that you thought of to like how an up and incoming producer like how could they break through the noise, I guess? If, there's so much songs. Uh what would you say, like, is there any ideas you have or advice that you would give to like any, starting producers who are, trying to deal with that, trying to break through the noise of
Yeah.
so much competition?
I mean, again, know where you want to be, or else you're just moving in zigzags. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's tough. It's if you're trying to become like an independent artist and tour and stuff like that, find out what that would mean today.
Mhm.
Like if you're going to start a company selling stuff on Amazon, like you still have to do things where you have to pick which hats you want to wear.
Yeah.
And if you're bootstrapping it and you don't have a ton of money, you can't hire somebody to break through the noise. And you got to figure
Yeah.
out if it's through social, if you want to make like a socially, viral track that goes along with the video. If you want to do that, figure out what's making songs do that. Like when you watch Mr. Beast talk about how he decides to do things, that wasn't an accident. He doesn't have, he talks about getting 1 billion subscribers on YouTube. which is a goal, and then he figures
Yeah.
out how to do it. And then I found a video recently that was awesome that he did. And he said, people, when they make their first million or 2 million, why would you make it impossible? Why would you just travel and make videos in other countries? Why don't you just stop or slow down and do things locally? And that's just like that CEO mentality. Like
Yeah.
if I slow down, someone's gonna catch up and then supersede me. Like, I just want to be the best that I could
Yeah.
until I can't. Like
Definitely. So you
that's it.
can't stop, right? It's kind of crazy.
You
And
could,
even
you could.
yeah.
I mean,
But
most
even
people that do this, that get that far, say, the fun part's getting there.
yeah.
So if you got there, it's like, what now? Like,
Yeah.
do I
And
do I
I
hang
kind of
my hat up? Do I pick another thing? Like, what do you do?
I don't
You
know.
know?
And that's one thing that I've like, trying to kind of think about too. It's like, okay, I've, been selling these beats online. It's been my full-time gig for a while. It's like, I don't want to get too comfortable. And that's like in some
Yeah.
ways kind of scares me, kind of puts a little bit of fear on me, right? But it's just like,
Yep.
but then it's also, it's exciting, right? I guess with like the AI and, even like editing, some videos for my, Instagram and
Autopod.
my YouTube, right? Yeah, it's like stuff like
Autopod,
that.
Opus. I know I have a got it. We do it
Yeah.
too, man. You got to cut through the noise somehow, right? If you
So
can
it's
make
like,
600 videos an hour, you'll win.
yeah, it's
So
just
unless
it's
you have an
keeping up with
agency,
it, right?
yeah, man. I
But
mean, wearing all those hats, it takes a toll because by the time you're done, you're like, do I want to sit in front of Ableton for 6 hours now? And then that turns into the problem. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So a lot of people are just like, oh, they're not sticking to their true self. They're trying to do this, they're trying to do that. It's like, nah, man, some people just learn a ton in a really short period of time when they go down this rabbit hole and they figure out what they were trying to do is not the thing that they wanted to do, or people have this thought, you got to learn. You got to be open. Like I still learn from 14-year-old DJs. Like you
yeah,
can't not think you're done, or you
yeah,
can't think you're finished learning, or you can't learn anything from anybody else. Like even Mr. Mig, like, we have conversations all day long, and
yeah.
he'll teach me something in Logic and Elementor for WordPress, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because we're the type of guys that wear like 30 hats, even though,
Yeah, I'm the
it's you
same,
can
man. It's like
yeah,
there's
you
some
can
days
call
I
yourself
spend,
established. Yeah, you
yeah,
can call yourself established. You can do whatever you want to do, but at the end of the day, it's you're either complacent or you're not. And there's just reasons or excuses, whatever you want to say. But music's one of those things that if you use it creatively and you're fortunate enough to get someone that will help you monetize what you like to do, like AM, remember that?
yeah,
Like AM's mom was like,
yeah,
find what you love to do and then find someone to pay you for it.
yeah,
Like if you could do that, God bless you for it. You know what I mean? But a lot of people music's just like a source of income or an avenue like that. And if you don't have the time to dedicate to find what makes you comfortable and fun and wanting to do this, that's a shame. So music's mostly like a side hustle for a lot of people today.
definitely,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? Like when I punch out, then I get to do my band and it's like, dude, you're tired. I know you're tired.
That's
Like
why I think like at least like with AI can kind of I guess get through some stuff like that where it's like, I can imagine,
definitely.
clocking out, putting, making music the fun part. And then I'm sure a lot of people, are, like I was saying, it's like I love making new stuff. And then when like the track is finished, like it's like, okay, now I have to master it. I have to mix it. Now I have to organize this and upload this and do it like all of the like packaging stuff. Like it's fun for me, but like it's nowhere as fun as making something from scratch, right?
Yeah,
And that's why I
100%.
have like, on my desktop, like, 30 project files that are basically 90% done.
Yeah.
I just gotta like
Yeah,
package it.
that's
So
I
it's
can show
like,
you. Yeah, I don't even want to show you mine.
yeah,
I have hard drives, like plural,
yeah,
like my G drive arrays and all this stuff. There's like
yeah.
30 something terabytes, and most of them are
I'm
like
just, I have so many
archived
hard
videos.
drives.
Yeah, it's
So at
just,
least
it
like
is.
AI, I feel like can be used like in that sense where it's like, okay, at least I can, throw this into Lander or, something and get a half decent mix and then put it out there and work on the new stuff. Like that's kind of like the ways that I've been kind of trying to embrace it and the ways that
Yeah.
kind of give me at least a little bit of peace of mind, kind of ease that
Sure.
anxiety with it, taking over everything where I'm like,
Yeah.
I,
That's what I found out. That's what I mean. If you asked me before, like, what do I find out with young people? It's problems that, I mean, even seasoned producers have.
yeah,
Just like put your stuff out there. If you're starting out, put your stuff out there.
yeah,
Like no one expects you to be good. If you are, awesome. If you're
Yeah.
not, cool. Like you'll get back. When I hear my first mix shows, I'm in ba I can't listen to them. Like you have to like pause it, you take a
Yeah.
lap around the studio and you're like, damn, that sucks so bad. Like nothing's in key. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just noticeably off and you're just like, oh man. But it has to be like that.
It does,
Like
yeah.
you don't learn anything from success. That's like it's you know what it is? The problems with music are the problems that people have with everything. Like music's not specific to the problems that people have making music. It's always like write down what you want to do. Like you want to be better at percussion, just do it.
Yeah.
And today you don't have, like I said, today you don't have an excuse. Like you really, 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 really don't. You can get feedback from 10,000 people in like an afternoon or a weekend.
Mhm.
There's like 10 platforms that, can host your music, distribute your music. You throw a handful of dollars in just putting it in front of more people and then just listen to, people are gonna be like, this is the worst song I ever heard. And you're like, but why?
Yeah.
Like, but
Use
why?
that
It's
feedback,
like,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You want to do like a post-mortem. You're like, okay, so
Yeah.
let's examine why this was terrible. And then you listen to that and a track that you were trying to do, or trying to emulate, and then you're like, I get it. It's mostly like dynamic range, it's mastering, but
Yeah.
sound design,
All
it could
the
be,
little things, right?
yeah.
I think
There's
at
like, I
least
mean,
like yeah, at least like AI, using like the text, the song generators can't replace that because like, I've had so many times where like, I put a song online and let's say, a company or someone wants to buy it, but they're like, can you change this like synth to something else? And if I was just using Suno, I'd be like, I don't know how I made that. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So it's like at least like I don't know. I feel like you have to go through that like yeah, learning all the ropes, putting in the legwork, putting in the work, and then that's how you get the reward, right? I think like with anything, it's like, a lot of these, I think AI tools in many ways are like a get rich quick type of scheme. And those ones aren't going to last, right? I just like the ones that let me still learn everything, but just kind of help me out.
I will say this because I agree with that in a ton of respects. In
Yeah.
a few, there's people with a ton of money that promote absolute
Oh,
like
yeah.
garbanzo beans trash. Like
Yeah.
just people send me stuff and I'm just like, how? Like
Yeah.
the template in Fruity Loops, like the template file that
Yeah.
comes with like Ableton or
Yeah.
Fruity Loops,
Just,
like
yeah,
this is
using
crazy
that.
better. One of my new rules is like if AI can make a better song with 12 words or less, you sh just do it again.
Yeah.
Like make it better. Because back in the day, I heard my song, I heard songs that were out, and I was like, I think this is good. Like I think it's good. And then people like, bash it for whatever reason. And I'm like, okay, good. My next song hopefully is better. And then it works
Yeah.
like that. AI, I mean, it's like workflows. If you're not classically trained, you can still drag in MIDI notes that you buy or download, right?
Yeah.
And that it turns someone that doesn't know how to play an instrument into someone that can make a song. And
Mhm.
then AI, it's a different workflow. It really is.
It
One of the
is.
videos
Yeah.
that I'm making, that I'll send this to you too. I don't know if you want to link it, but one of the
Yeah,
videos that I'm
definitely.
creating is basically making a song by reverse engineering an AI track. Like I was
Okay.
explaining, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll do the prompt in like the text to music generators, like a Suno or something,
Yeah.
and then we'll just use Lala to just decompose the whole song, and I'll take whatever I want out. The vocal can go in there. I can put it in simpler or whatever, make it like a vocal stab type of thing in Ableton. I can take instruments out one at a time. I can turn the percussion into MIDI, could turn the bass line into MIDI. I can do all that stuff. And that's basically I think that's more work than downloading a
Yeah.
sample pack. If you're going to use Nexus and hold a key and it adds like 13 instruments,
Yeah.
what's worse? You know what I'm saying? Like it's
You're right. I forgot all about those all those
oh,
presets
dude,
with
listen. How about
Texas. Like,
Nas? What was it? Steve Angelo? Used like
yeah.
Vengeance. I forgot I used to know the pack. It was like CC something. It was like
But
Nas
dude,
was
the
like
thing is, it's
three files.
always it's that stuff has been around. I remember I saw a TikTok just a couple months back of what's that Gorillaz song?
Oh, I saw that. It was
Feels good, Inc.
the
Yeah,
keyboard
where it's
sample.
he's
It was
like
like
guess how we made
dun
this one?
dun dun dun.
Demo preset 5. And he clicks it
So
and he just
good.
like one button and it makes the whole song. It's like this stuff has always been
It's always been
around,
around.
right?
Yeah. And what's his name? Was it Andre or which one of the other Black Eyed Peas? One of them has been using AI to do his vocals for like 13 years to like 12, 13. Like we didn't even have PyTorch or TensorFlow, and like he's using old school like AI software to basically create vocal stabs and what. But my final take on is it because it's like the whole is cheerleading a sport? I feel like music's getting there
Yeah,
where it's like, is it
yeah,
producing if you it's like
yeah.
cooking. It's like cooking. If
It
it's
is.
more than
Yeah,
3 steps, you're cooking. You know,
I like that.
if you
I
pour
do
like
like that.
water and mix and then you bake it, you prepared something.
So
You know what I'm saying? Like
making ice cubes is not cooking. Making
I'm an
anything
engineer.
else is
Dude,
cooking.
absolutely. I'm an engineer. I'll over engineer everything. If I do
Yeah,
something that's mundane, but I do something trivial, but I make it last like 14 steps, more merit in my head, right?
yeah.
It was harder. It was more complicated. So it's got to have more value. But
I like
yeah,
that.
that's my take. If you can take something from AI, make it yours, more yours than right out of the box, then it's, what's the
Yeah,
harm? I mean, calling yourself you know, call yourself what you are.
yeah.
You're producing music, you are,
You're just finding a
and
different
it's
tool for it, right?
it's just so crazy different because I don't want to put down anybody that does that stuff, but at the same time, what kind of value should you assign to someone that does it the old school way?
Yeah,
Like I still
definitely.
DJ
Yeah.
with vinyl. Like I
Okay.
still have like my Serato or record box setup is like two techniques, 1210 M5Gs, and then like either an S9 and S11 or like a 900, whatever it is. But I try not to use any effects. I try not
Yeah.
to use any of the inboard because I want myself to sound the same no matter where I am. So that was one of the
Okay.
things, like even on a TTM 57, like everybody wanted to sound like Spin Bad, so they used the hold echo and they would
Yeah.
always use the hold echo to get out of songs. And I learned how to do the hold echo like by hand, like start, stop the loop, and then just like fade it out. But I think little things like that, um, it depends. If someone's seeing you perform and you're scratching and you're doing that stuff, then it just adds a different dynamic,
It does.
And
Yeah. It has
if you
value, like you
need
said, value.
that's it. It's just value. It's assigning value. And value sometimes is useless. Like
Yeah.
if you don't need it, if I'm making I don't know, if I'm making like a slideshow and I just need background music or whatnot, I used to make like beds. Like
Yeah.
music beds. Like I needed a bed for this, a bed for that. I would make it. And now I'm just like romantic bed for like
Just for
romantic
that.
song
Yeah.
click instrumental and it's like 13 seconds. I have two options. I'm like, that's too perfect. And then I focus on what I need. Like sometimes I'm not making music to make a song. I'm making music as a part of a bigger project.
I like that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So why the hell would I waste most of my time when most of it's video editing? Like I want to
Yeah.
use After Effects because I want it to look really cool. I want to track motion with like text
Yeah.
and stuff. Like that's going to take time,
Yeah.
So the music is just like I need it.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't
That's the
come home
thing.
that day going, I'm gonna make a killer music bet for this video, man. Like this
For this
is
13-second
never said that.
slideshow. Spend
Yeah,
hours on
yeah, yeah.
it.
This Google slide is gonna be the tits. Like no, I've never said that, like because of my songs. But sometimes when I'm doing a radio remix or whatever, I'll think about it and overanalyze it and
Yeah. And then you
make
just,
two versions.
yeah.
And that's it. There's a time and a place for everything. I think when it comes to using AI, you know, if you're a chef and you're buying Chef Boyardee and passing it as your own, like that's just it. That's just what it is. It happens everywhere. People are going to always do it. It should piss some people off, I guess, but what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? Like people are going to do, and you have the tools now. It's not like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
I
just
feel that,
there's
man.
so many different there's so many different
There
minds,
is.
ways of thought and all of that and I don't know. It's just we're in a different
I
time,
think
and
everything,
it's
man.
going to
It's
be interesting
crazy.
to see where it goes. Because
Yeah.
I
Well, that
honestly
was,
think that, yeah, go ahead.
I
Sorry.
was gonna say, like, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. It's like, what do you think? And these are like the last two questions I had were just like, where do you think, 2025 is going, just as a general, but then also for yourself, where is, 2025 going with,
Sure.
all this music stuff or just anything else that, you see
Yeah.
out there that you're working on?
So I mean, I think I'll make a couple of predictions.
Yeah.
I think record labels are completely pivoting. I don't think you're going to see the times that record labels are, I think already are not looking for the next Taylor Swift.
Mhm.
They're looking for the most monetizable ways to do things, and that's algorithmic learning for viral videos and trying to figure out and get artists to become part of their label before the song becomes too big because you always want to buy low and sell high. So I think that's
Yeah.
going to be the biggest game of the labels. Um, I think music. I think the way we consume music the way we consume music is just different. So I work for radio and I have for 17 years. And discovery has gone down a ton. Like the discovery when it comes to like Spotify's New Music Fridays or Hot Friday, like
Yeah,
all those playlists, those are cool.
yeah,
Um, but I feel like discovery has just plummeted. Like people
yeah,
don't watch TV, people watch streaming services because they want to watch what they want to watch or listen to what they want to hear at that exact time. Like not even Pandora is doing it.
yeah,
So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I want my song now and I want to listen to it 11 times. And then radio is like, what's radio's appeal? It's the people. Like you listen to the jocks, you listen to certain mix shows, you listen to certain things because you like that. But we're also in a world where things are accessible. Like you can listen to, I mean, you can go on SoundCloud and listen to an
yeah,
infinite amount of this stuff. I mean, I think music, if you want to know my prediction, I think platforms are going to create music for users at the time that they want. So I think, like, for instance, I think Spotify in a few years, if you give it a handful of songs, it'll be able to already today
yeah,
generate songs of similar style and everything to kind of hit the nail on the head.
yeah,
And they have a massive catalog that if they decided to do any sort of like, you know, uh, machine learning like Suno or UDI, but if they want to do it legally, because that's also attribution is also the thing that we're getting into this world where how do you tell the world that this was AI? Because
yeah.
if you make a dish with Chef Boyardee, you have to tell people that
It's all,
so
yeah,
they don't think you did that. So
yeah,
I think the hardest part is like it's not as easy as, throw it in the meta tag. Like it's metadata is not gonna,
yeah,
it's not good enough. So I think that's the hardest part where you're gonna see already music being made for different reasons. Computers are making most of the music already, which is a shame.
yeah.
And I think that music's going to be made at the time of execution. So I think you're going to have the ability to listen to things that you'll never be able to listen to two times in a row because
Interesting.
we're going to have that. Yeah, I actually, I mean, it's funny. I made something that would make music videos like on the fly by listening to lyrics and using the Shazam API to predict what, well, not predict, but to analyze the songs. Then it would download the lyrics. Then it would parse those into photo prompts,
Yeah.
generate photos, and then do seed traveling. So you had
Okay.
that very specific effect where like
Yeah.
things were moving. But that was a thing where it made basically a music video, but one time. Didn't save it, didn't do anything. So I think you're gonna have a lot more of that. I think you're going to have a lot because we're at a point where computers are so fast at things with these GPUs and all of these like ASIC chips that do just one job.
Yeah.
You're going to start seeing crazy, crazy things. Not only for like biped robots that look like DJs that are physically using the
Yeah.
CDJs, which is like 2 years away, maybe a year and a half. Um, but yeah, we're getting into a crazy place where people open Spotify to listen to music today more than to listen to someone.
Mm.
Like I think
Yeah.
people open Spotify because I just want to listen to something. I'm working out, I'm taking a
Yeah.
walk,
I do that all the
I'm
time. Yeah. Just
home,
just background music, right?
right? It's always something. And I have the technique set up and I have like a ton of vinyl, like the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack or whatever
Yeah.
it is, and I'll just throw it on and listen to
Yeah.
the whole side and then flip it over. You know what I mean? It's like tick, 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 and you're like, oh, yeah, I'll
Yeah.
flip it around. Like it's more the novelty though. You know what I mean? Like, can I
Yeah.
do that with an MP3 player? Yeah, an MP3 player. What the hell am I even talking about? Like, I got my iPod out. But there's so many ways of getting music. I think the whole meaning of like why people listen, why people make music, why people go on the internet, like what even learning instruments. I just think
Yeah.
it's a totally different mentality. Like people are getting into it for different reasons. People are consuming it for different reasons. People are monetizing on it for different reasons.
They
And I
just want it
just
all
think,
now, right? They want it
yeah,
right
man,
now.
look at Anima in Vegas. I mean, I don't, no one can name any song from that producer. Nobody.
Yeah.
It's the visuals. Like you go to the Sphere and you pay the money for the visuals, and Alessandro makes the visuals. So another guy completely does the visuals. And, it's marketing yourself, right? Like we
Mhm.
got to a point where you could do whatever you want to do, but if you can market yourself well, I mean, the possibilities are endless
That's
because
what I
you can
think
make a
like
bad,
that's what I think like the biggest like combat to AI is. It's just like marketing yourself because it's Yeah, I think that like and hopefully this is the case, but it's like, if there's, you know, 500 tracks being put out on Spotify tomorrow that sound like my stuff, if I can show myself in the studio, at least there's not another AI person that looks
Version.
like me, talks like me yet at least. And
Yeah,
I can,
yeah, yeah.
quickly throw go on IG live or, make a TikTok of me. Like at least I just feel like if I can show my personality in my, music and stuff I do online, at least that kind of separates me from just a faceless YouTube channel or
Yeah.
something like that.
But then you become the most important part of that. It's not the music.
That's true. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what you're really saying is like you just want people to connect with you. And
Yeah.
the music is the way that they caught your channel or interacted with your video or saw the content you made.
Yeah.
The music again is the secondary
It
part.
is. That's
So
true.
if
Yeah.
you are super charismatic and you make 30 Suno songs, they can be garbage Suno songs, not even like garbage songs in general, like garbage songs that take you 10 seconds to make. As
Yeah.
long as you are super entertaining and cool to watch, I'll still watch you.
People will still do it. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So again, we just arrived at a whole thing. It's like that's where we are today from two music producers and two music producers and
Yeah.
like musicians that just kind of like at the end of the day, it's like how you separate yourself, just be better, be cooler.
Yeah.
But it's you, it's not your music. You know what I'm saying? Like, no one's going to listen to something today and be like, that's sidechained terribly. Like, no one does that anymore. You know what I mean? So I just think it's a crazy place where you kind of can't be that introverted music producer and blow up gigantic unless you have a giant team,
Yeah.
you know? Like Anima's what is it? Anima's father owns Luxottica.
Oh
So
yes.
not
He's
even the
set.
money aside, I'm not saying like it's daddy's money. I'm not. I'm just saying
Yeah.
having a marketing and entrepreneurial background or growing up with it. Like my mother owned a bakery. Like I grew up there. I didn't know anything else. I didn't go, you know what I mean? Like I had a
Yeah.
PlayStation, I played, but it wasn't like the first thing I did. And then I brought turntables to the bakery, and that's kind of how like this thing grew. And I sold like mixed CDs, like I was on the boardwalk of Seaside, New Jersey and the Jersey Shore, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
like peddle CDs. But
Put in
that's
the
how I got
work.
into it.
Yeah.
That's how I got into it, man. And that I think if it was today and that was me, I would spend most of my time marketing and figuring out how to gain followers on all these big social networks that would increase my reach. And
Yeah.
then if I decided to stop making music and selling herbal teas or tea wraps or whatever the hell
Oh,
they're
the
selling, like
fuck. Yeah.
it's just a giant database of emails and I'll probably be successful, because I think we're just in a different time where
Yeah.
like it's all consumer based and it's more how do you monetize on something? And I think, we can keep beating it over the head, but music is awesome and music's fun and music's a hobby and music is a way of income for some people, but it's changing. It's just changing. So people that were using it to monetize, you still could. You just can't do it the way you were doing it.
Always
That's
changing,
all it
right?
is.
Yeah. We've
All it is. Like
evolving.
people that are like real DJs use vinyl. It's like I use vinyl. I'm gonna call bullshit on that because there's a lot of really, really great DJs. Like Laidback Luke uses algorithm DJ through a phone. And I'm like,
It
yeah, the
still
dude
sounds
crushes it.
good.
Go
Yeah.
tell him he's not a DJ. What are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Like, get out of here.
Yeah. There's
And
always
it's
going to be
this
those old heads who just like,
always, man,
you can't
always.
get
And it's
too
like
just, you got to evolve the times, right?
all that is an excuse to not evolve and to not
Yeah.
adapt. If you want to say, it's just um I hear all the time, like, what happened to nightclubs? And I'm like, the hell are you talking about? They're like, how do we bring nightclubs back? I'm like, I don't know, DeLorean? I don't know. Like, what do you what do you like, what's the question? This is the era of the sports bar, Like, how do you
Yeah.
bring back some music? It's like it was its time.
Yeah. You
You
got to
know,
move forward, right? That's the thing.
or you just gotta, it depends what you want to do. Again, if you have a job and you're making good money, you're making music for fun, buy an instrument, hire someone to teach you, go record, throw a
Yeah.
laptop with like an Apogee duet or something, and just go make your music. You know what I'm saying? Like just go
100%.
have fun. Like I have a big Miss Pac-Man arcade machine. I like to play Miss Pac-Man. I'll do that like a couple of minutes a week. You know what I'm saying? But like everything has its time. But if I'm making music for the radio, I'm making music for the radio. If I'm making mix shows, I'm in that mode,
Mhm.
And
I
I
like that.
think,
Yeah. Just knowing where you need to be. Like you said, time and place for everything.
yeah, and music, when people say like, why do you do music? It's like, why do you eat? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's for fun, sometimes it's because I'm hungry, sometimes it's because I want to try a dish I saw. I don't know. You know, and music is just like that, man. It's like we need music now for social media. That was never a thing.
Yeah,
Like, how about that? How about the fact that there's hundreds of thousands of videos that use the same tracks, and maybe you can make a song that's unique and maybe goes viral, you know? And making one track a week is 52 songs a year. That's more than most artists have in their lifetime.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why don't you just break down that problem into smaller problems? Like, what do you want to do? You want to have 100 songs? Okay, it's two a week for a year. That's one a week for 2 years. Like, pick a thing. Are you in a rush? Are you trying to crush it? Are you just trying to make people know your name? Do you want to be included in the concert?
There's
Like, are
so
you
many
winning a
different ways
remix
to
contract?
take it, right?
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Like, I like music. I'll always love music. I don't care if computers exclusively make music in 10 years.
Yeah,
I'll still listen to Beatles tracks and Green Day and all that, right?
yeah,
Like, just the new music's not going to cancel out the old music. The new music's
yeah.
going to make it harder for new music like old music to be found. Um, Again, it's just different. We also didn't have dubstep and things like that,
And
you
it's just
know?
always changing, right? That's the thing. It's just, I guess, yeah, just embracing the new stuff, but then
Yeah.
also kind of keeping the old ways and the old songs
Yeah.
just kind of close to your heart, right?
I'm not saying you have to change the way you think. I'm just saying be real.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to make music because you want people to buy your music, do it. But to be mad at people because AI exists, you're kind of a douche. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Because people
Like,
are gonna do it on
that's
either way, right? It's
it's
happening
either
whether you
it.
like it or not.
Yeah, someone's like, I don't believe in all this AI stuff. I'm like, I don't even know what that phrase means, but if you want help using any of it, like let me know. We'll have like a Zoom call,
Yeah, I mean,
you know?
if you don't believe in it, someone else is, and they're gonna do crazy stuff with it, right?
Yeah, people get so mad. People get so mad today. They really do. Like
Yeah,
the radio stuff, I feel like unions exist in radio just to make sure that AI doesn't touch any part of anything.
yeah,
Like that's the new union job. It's just like you can't use this. It's like it'll make everything better. They're like, can't. I'm like, all right, cool. All right. All right. Good talk. I'll see you out there.
Well,
But
man,
yeah,
I
man.
guess like last kind of question here. Just what does the rest of 2025 hold for you, or like what projects are you working on at the moment? And again, we can definitely share anything in the description so people can learn more. But yeah, let
Yeah.
us know like what you're working on and where people can kind of you know
Yeah.
see what
Well,
you're up
I
to.
so we actually had a fire, give you a little history. We had a fire 2 years ago. So the building that my studio was in, my office, my apartment, all one building, we lost it all. So I'm actually
Wow,
in my
wow,
parents' studio.
sorry to hear that. Wow.
That's all right. I mean, we're gonna have a new building, right? So we're cool. Actually, tomorrow's my zoning meeting, so I'm like all
Okay,
excited and jacked up.
nice.
But it kind of forced me to reevaluate that. The question you just asked me, like in
Yeah.
the last 2 years, I'm like, do I just build it again? Do I, what would I do if I was younger, like now? Like if I had to do something from scratch. My biggest problem also is I do things for so long that I feel like I'm working for myself, but the version like that's 18 years old or 26 years old or whenever I did that.
Yeah.
Like I think we fall into a comfort zone where you stop reevaluating like what you can do to just make things better.
Mhm.
You don't question like efficiency and all these AI tools come out and you're just like, I have a way, you know? But I do think that 2025 is going to be more content created based. I'm going to try to do my studio is actually getting converted into a content creation studio with like 7 different environments.
Okay,
So
nice.
the business is shifting from just kind of like me being the only person in a studio to now people rent out a space and they have like a desk, couches,
Yeah.
music production room, things like that to talk. Because I think the more important thing is what you said. People are going to be the more important part of the content,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And music's awesome. And if you're a music producer, it's cool. But I talk to a lot of them. And a lot of the music sounds more similar than the people sound.
Yeah.
So I remember people more than I remember their songs. So when they're like, remember when I released that album? I was like, didn't even know that was you. Doesn't matter. You're awesome. Like, love talking to you. I'll do this every year. But I think the next year is going to hold a lot of software development. I'm into software development too, so I'm actually making a lot of AI based tools, not just like the
Okay.
ones I was explaining, but a lot of
Yeah.
just crazy tools in general. Just things like Hugging Face. I mean, I just all these repositories of just crazy things that all these monster companies and 13-year-olds make in their basement all in one place, and they just Like it's finally a time I feel where you can innovate again.
Yeah,
Like we didn't
it's
have that
exciting.
for such a
Yeah,
long time, and it's just
definitely.
like there's not enough time in a day. I can't stay awake long enough, and I just want to read everything, and I just want to be at the front of the research and all this stuff. And I think 2025 isn't going to be AI in the sense of I'm just going to use ChatGPT to create a bunch of cool books and for Amazon KDP. I don't think it's just that. I think it's finally trying to figure out things that we can do that didn't exist before with the tech we have today.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but I think it's a lot more content, a lot more software. I think the music is going to be something that grows more for the merit of AI tools for this conversation, just because the workflow makes me able to blow out. I did another video. It was make an album a day,
yeah,
and I did everything from artwork to lyric design, but kind of like instead of just saying make 12 songs, like in the process of making a song where you tell a story over the course of 12 tracks and then you do the lyric design and all of that stuff, and then you use AI tools to kind of like I over engineered it again. I tried to make a bunch in the same key and then strip parts out and put them together and then do all that. But I do think making the music and showing people how you do it, I think is going to be way more important and way more
mhm,
valuable
yeah,
than the song at the end.
yeah,
I don't think anyone will pay anyone $1.30 for a song. I think I would pay $5 to watch somebody. I would pay $10 to watch Thomas Gold make a remix.
yeah,
I wouldn't pay $2 for his remix. I mean, I would, but more so
yeah.
I would
I see what
watch
you
the
mean. Yeah, you want
process.
that value, you want that
Yeah,
connection,
yeah, I
right?
really, really do. It's like I would watch cooking shows over just going to restaurants to look at food.
Yeah,
You know
that
what I'm
makes
saying?
sense.
It's
Yeah,
like I don't find the merit. I like doing things again, and I just think this year I'm just gonna just really focus on putting my stamp on whatever it is. If I make a song, it's gonna be bad, good, and different, but I'll make it. If I
yeah,
use tools, if I plug it, if I make one thing, I like collaborating. So if I'll ask AI to do something violin based, and then I'll ask like a violinist to cut something different but similar with the reference, and then I'll substitute that and stuff. So in a sense, it's just different. I've never done that before. You know what I mean? Like I asked for collaborations in certain parts and whatnot, even remotely, but it's just different to create something so quickly and then just pull a bunch of people in. And it also opens avenues and makes you more valuable to other people when you can use AI tools to create the volume of music that some people need because producers have 24 hours in a day. They have to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom, wash themselves. And by the time they're done, it's like you got to pick and choose who you want to work with and what you
yeah,
want to do. And if you can use AI to just whatever your end game is, just to get there faster. I think that's the cool part.
yeah. I love it, man. There's so much creativity, so much exciting stuff, but that's awesome, man. Well, dude, like I appreciate you, being on this, sharing everything. It's
Yeah,
awesome to hear, everything from, you getting started on this stuff way back in, the early 2000s and where it's become and everything that you're working on now. And yeah, dude, just thank you for coming on.
thanks for having me, man. Yeah, this was
I'll
fun.
get a bunch of links from you so I can put them all in the description so anyone watching this can check out your stuff. But again, man, I just thank you for your time and sharing all
Yeah,
this.
man. Definitely. We'll definitely link up in the future and catch up, but it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you doing this.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thanks a lot, man.